If he's seeing from there, I'm sorry, Nevin. I'm sorry because you didn't deserve that. We all miss you. We all miss you, and we'll meet soon. Just
Abhishek Verma is all of 21 years old. Nevin Delvin, one of the 3 IAS aspirants who was killed from waterlogging in the basement of a famous UPSC coaching center, was one of Abhishek's close friends.
I was just sitting there. I was just not reacting. I was numb.
When we meet Abhishek, his trauma, his tears, his anger are all evident. But he wants to speak. In fact, he says he must speak because India must know more about his friend Nevin and the nightmare that he and young boys and girls like him have just lived through. He also wants to challenge the lack of transparency in what he says we know so far, including exactly how many young boys and girls have died. तो जो हॉस्पिटल में पुलिस ऑफिसर बच्चों को मिला, उसने बोला there are 8 bodies.
Yes. Remember, but I very well remember that he said that there are 8 bodies. And I don't know if it's a mistake, it's a miscommunication or what, but I don't think so. Being at that position, being the SI there, he should have said there are 8 bodies.
Abhishek also warns that the way IAS aspirants are living is another horrific tragedy waiting to happen.
मैंने जितने पीजीज फ्लैट्स देखे हैं, कोई भी सिक्योरिटी, किसी भी चीज की सिक्योरिटी नहीं है वहां पे. अगर वहां पे आग लगती है, पानी भरता है, शॉर्ट सर्किट होता है, कोई बच नहीं पाएगा.
What would be justice for Nevin?
The justice will be that no child, none of the parents should see their child like this. But I'll tell you one thing. The time when we were searching for him, we called one of our girl who was there, who escaped out. She was in a hospital. She said that hum sab bhag rahe the and Nevin was trying to save us. वो सबको बचा रहा था.
So he died saving lives.
Exactly. He died saving lives, and I can imagine him saving them. I can imagine him being there. He didn't have that accountability. उसको कोई responsibility नहीं थी उसके सर पर. वो चाहता तो आराम से निकल सकता था क्योंकि बच्चे निकले हैं. But he was the last one who was rescued, to my knowledge.
Yeah.
He was the last one.
Yeah.
And there is a reason that he was the last one.
He stayed back to save others.
He stayed back to save others. He pushed everyone to go outside and he died as a hero.
मैं आपको बोलना चाहती हूँ कि at 21 you're a very brave young man and your family should be very proud of you. Your friends should be very proud of you. I know you don't feel that because you're numb inside. अभी इसके trauma जिंदगी भर शायद रहे, लेकिन आपने बहादुरी दिखाई है.
See, for me it doesn't matter. I don't know how anyone else see it, and with due respect I'm saying that I don't feel that I'm brave enough. I don't feel that I am proud of myself because I was not there. I was not able to save. I was not able to save my friend, and that what I don't feel there is not an inch of proudness in me, and because I was not able to save my friend, I was not able to be there. I was not able to tell him that he was a great support. I just want to say one thing to the authorities and the people responsible that it's not political, it's not nothing. Just don't play with lives of the students. Just don't play with them because अच्छा नहीं है, ये सब बहुत बुरा है, and you will not be able to sleep इसके बाद because everyone is ignoring, everyone in the authorities, be it of any kind, be it political parties, the local government, anyone, they are all ignoring the problems, the safety of the students. Just don't do that. Just because you assure your child is safe wherever he or she is, just please treat every child, everyone, even if you don't know them, just treat them like your child because there is someone who is waiting for them. There is a friend who is waiting for him. There is a friend who is waiting for them. There are parents waiting for them. There are people waiting for them, and they don't want to see them dead.
This is the story of a heartbroken, young, 21-year-old Indian. No 21-year-old should have to wrestle with guilt at having survived and watch one of his closest friends die. No 21-year-old should have to appeal to authorities, bureaucrats, politicians to treat each child as their own child because everybody has a parent at home who doesn't want to see them dead. I'm quoting from that conversation with young Abhishek Verma, one of the closest friends of Nevin Delvin, one of the three who died in the waterlogged illegal basement of Rao's IAS Academy Circle. Abhishek himself, just out of college, is also studying to be a civil servant. But his wisdom is more than his years, and his trauma, no matter how brave he is going to scar him for lives. And God knows how many other young people we're leaving scarred with what we've seen unfold in the national capital today. Make no mistake, this is not a story about one city's infrastructure alone. This is a story about a corroded, broken, callous system. This is not a freak accident of nature. This is not a freak accident or a sad day for drainage in Delhi. This is culpable homicide. And what's worse is so acute is the trust deficit that every young agitator, protester that I've met, including Abhishek, they believe that more than three of their friends have died. You heard Abhishek saying that the police told him at the RML hospital in Delhi that there were 8 bodies inside. And logically, of course, and I asked Abhishek this, if there are more children who have died, where are their families? But he pointed out to me that we have no clear update from the hospital on what happened that night inside the hospital. Was no one injured? If there were children injured, what is the state of the injured? Meanwhile, the Delhi High Court had some scathing words today to say about the ridiculousness with which this entire tragedy is being approached. For instance, a car, an SUV that drove through the waterlogged streets, apparently triggering the drainage flow back into the basement. The car is impounded and the driver has been arrested as if he knew what was happening in that basement. As I introduce my guest today, let me remind our audience once again that it fell upon a student to actually complain to the authorities as far back as June. Kishore Kushwaha used the government portal to file a complaint about the lack of safety in the basement. He then sent reminders on the 15th and the 22nd of July. And a few days later, 3 children, because at 52 for me, they are children. 3 children in their 20s were dead. And the other students believe that that number could be higher. Let me introduce our guest today, even as a shameful political war breaks out, designed to deflect, designed to create noise and not address the questions that the children want answered. Amod Kanth, veteran IPS officer, former DGP, is with us. Always a pleasure, sir. We're also joined by Vineeta. Vineeta Hariharan is a spokeswoman of the BJP. She is based out of Kerala. One of the young lives lost, Nevin, was from Kerala. And Vineeta, thank you for joining us. Also joining us is Mudit Gupta. He's a UPSC educator. And Mudit on his social media has also been raising questions about why there hasn't been more transparency when it comes to how we are telling the student community how many of their own have died. Padma Rao is with us. Padma Rao is a veteran journalist, one of India's foremost journalists, and it's a pleasure to have her back after a while. And also joining us from the Aam Aadmi Party is Mr. Anmol Panwar. Welcome to the program, everybody, and I want to get started. We'll have more clips of Abhishek, more voices from the ground for you, but let's get first impressions. Before I come to the politicians, I'll start with you, Amod Kanth, if I may.
because the police role is under scrutiny again. The students are not happy with the police. They say the local beat constables want vasuli. All the cops knew that there were illegal basements running there. They say the police is trying to break up the protest today. Today, we actually saw clashes between students and the police. The police tried to clear the area, and the students said, "Ye zabardasti kar rahe hain." They also say that police knew there were more bodies. I don't know if this is true, but each student is saying this. How do you think the police has handled the issue so far? Amodji.
Thank you, Barkha. Barkha, all you guys have always accepted me in both my roles. I mean, as a ex-police officer and my, let's say, social work, whatever I am doing, civil society presenter.
Yes, sir.
So now it appears to me that you have used a couple of words. Number one, somebody wrote criminal negligence here. And you said culpable homicide, that is not amounting to murder. That's another kind of description. See what happens that in the entire situation, it start with the role of police. The police will have to first of all define the severity of the crime, and while they register FIR itself, I have no idea under what sections they have done so. But then it could be culpable homicide not amounting to murder. The second part, which I agree with you. Although it's very difficult to pinpoint the culpability in this case. But then looking at the circumstances, the location itself, I mean the basement, as we know that under the MCD guidelines and MCD, it's very clear that this particular kind of use of basement was not at all permissible. Although, as you know, that lawyers and doctors are allowed to function from the basement. Some kind of educational programs also are allowed to be carried out in the basement. Library, perhaps, and all the items concerning a study circle could be from the basement. But this kind of use that was put to decidedly was not permissible from this kind of basement. And so, obviously, the Royal Study Circle to start with, the Municipal Corporation of Delhi and the other authorities who are connected with the licenses and any kind of permissions, they are supposed to be accounted for the entire thing. That is one. But going back to your point about police, because I can think of it. First point I said already that the police will have to take the call to decide whether it was criminal negligence not amounting to murder or whatever, or it's culpableness and not amounting to murder. And secondly, I'm surprised. I'm really surprised about it that if somebody said 8 dead bodies, in my opinion, it's very, very difficult to conceal the 5 dead bodies. It would not be possible to conceal 5 dead bodies. It has to be in public domain, everything. You know very well that during my entire career, I believed and I felt very comfortable dealing with these situations in presence of public, in presence of witnesses. It's much easier. So why should police conceal anything? They should not, in my opinion, because there is nothing to conceal actually. I mean, the culpability of police.
So I think this suspicion around the exact number of dead comes down to a trust deficit. When a child loses his or her faith in the system, उनको लगता है कि सभी हमसे झूठ बोल रहे होंगे at this point. But Mudit, you have been writing about
yes. Just one point before you start. See the number of people. It is absolutely required that in a situation like this, the number of people, number of youngsters and the students who were there present, as per the records, as per the information, the number of those who died and the number of those who were rescued and those who are missing, that should be clearly brought out as a white paper. It should be brought out in public domain. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Okay. I think that is the point. The point is that nobody has actually clearly communicated, Mudit, that these are the number of people who were inside the basement, right? These are the number of people who were injured. And these are the number of people who have died. For instance, आज एक नया video निकला है, a chilling video, and I will play it with the sound up, and then we'll talk a little bit about it. You can see the water gushing in the basement, and you can hear one man saying, "Abhi bhi 5 log hai andar." This is right at the end when the pani is coming in. I'm just trying to explain why the students are feeling the way they do. Let's take a look at this new horrific video that has surfaced.
यार कब से
So it's horrible to watch, and it's just like 10-second clip, but you can hear the man clearly say कि 5 लोग हैं अंदर, right, Mudit? And now I'll play out one other clip of Abhishek, the friend of Nevin, because I asked him what Mr. Amod Khan just said. कि आपको लगता नहीं कि अगर और लोग होते, बच्चे होते अंदर, तो their families would have come forward by now. Please take a look at what he said.
तो जो हॉस्पिटल में पुलिस ऑफिसर बच्चों को मिला, उसने बोला there are 8 bodies.
Yes. Remember, but I very well remember that he said that there are 8 bodies, and I don't know if it's a mistake, it's a miscommunication or what, but I don't think so. Being at that position, being the SI there, he should have said there are 8 bodies.
But अगर अभी तक कुछ बॉडीज अनट्रेस्ड होती तो उनकी आई एम थिंकिंग कि उनके फैमिली मेंबर्स तो आगे आके बोलते हैं हमारे बच्चे मिसिंग हैं, अभी तक हमें ऐसी कोई जानकारी नहीं मिली.
So I heard it. One of the family was outside they were looking for their child. ये मुझे सुनने में आया है. And again जो मैंने आपसे बोला कि there were 8 bodies. I even shared it with my family and they said कि बता रहे हैं मीडिया में भी कि 8 bodies हैं, but 5 have been recovered and there are 3 casualties.
और बाकी 2 हॉस्पिटल में हैं.
हाँ, they're
इंजर्ड. 5 लोग निकाले गए हैं.
इंजर्ड टोटल मुझे 12 पता चला था.
अच्छा.
बच्चों से कि there are total 12 those who are injured. So I don't know, but the police officer said that there are 8 bodies. He would have said that there are 8 injured people. They would have said कुछ भी उसके बाद, but saying in that position, saying the word body tells us everything.
And he said this to you directly.
Exactly.
Now this is the point, right? There is a young boy. He goes to look for his best friend at a hospital. He discovers at that hospital that his friend has died. The sub-inspector at the hospital, Mudit ji, then tells him that 8 bodies are under. His information is that 12 people were injured. There were 7 ambulances at the site. I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist. I'm just repeating what the children are saying to me. I was not there that night. I don't know. Maybe they are traumatized. Maybe they are accounting it incorrectly. I have no idea. That is my disclaimer. But this is what they're saying. They're saying wo injured jo the, wo kahan gaye? Unka kya hua? What happened inside the hospital? I agree with Mr. Amod Kanth, and I ask Abhishek that question, that if there were actually more deaths, families would have come forward by now. But I also take Abhishek's point that if there were more injured kids that night, we have not had an update, at least not that I know of, from the hospital ki kya hua. So Mudit, why is there this suspicion now among the children over exactly how many children have perished that night? And God forbid, I hope they are wrong and it's only the 3 we know, though 1 life lost is too many lives lost.
So it's not just 3 lives lost. To put things into perspective, just 1 week before this tragic instance, 1 student died in Patel Nagar due to electrocution. And also around that time itself, a girl committed suicide in a PG of Old Rajendra Nagar with a suicide note claiming that the brokers and the landowners have harassed her and there are other problems too, and she committed suicide in Rajendra Nagar. So I would see it as 5 deaths in all in the matter of last 15 days, in the matter of last 1 fortnight. And to just put things into perspective, I believe it's not just one issue about flooding of a basement. As soon as an aspirant steps into, be it Mukherjee Nagar, Rajendra Nagar, Lakshmi Nagar, Shadipur Depot, Shalimar Bagh, or any of the educational hubs, he is faced with a 3-front war. The first front is with the government and the MCD. हमें नहीं पता कि कहां पे पोल का जो तार है, that is a naked wire. Electrocution happened because of that. ऊपर हम देखते हैं, जो हम फिजिक्स में यूजुअली डायग्राम्स पढ़ते थे इलेक्ट्रिक वायर्स के, हमारे को ऊपर देखने पे वो ऐसे हेवी वायर्स दिखते हैं in all the localities including Mukherjee Nagar and Rajendra Nagar. Even the pictures that are being displayed, you can see heavy naked wires that are being there. Secondly, of course, the flooding issue and the entire waterlogging issue. The third most important issue is about the structures. If you look at the buildings in Mukherjee Nagar, Rajendra Nagar, Lakshmi Nagar, those buildings are such that Delhi lies in seismic zone 4. Even the mildest of the tremors can lead to some sort of structural damage, and students can be trapped there also. Apart from that, monsoon is going on. Students have shared pictures with me wherein there is massive seepage and leakage in their rooms, and they are paying 20,000 rupees per month for that room. And those ceilings can fall anytime. So, our focus on just flooding of basements is one very microscopic problem that an aspirant is facing amidst all the problems that he or she is suffering.
No, we have an image of the exposed wires on our screen. This is from this morning, by the way. This is from this morning. ये आज की तस्वीर मैं आपको दिखा रही हूं. ये आप देखिए, ये आज की तस्वीर है. इतना शोर होने के बाद, these are the wires, right? And I take your point, Mudit, that it's not, we can't see these 3 deaths in isolation. But why is there a controversy over the death count in the mind of the children? Are they traumatized? Are they suspicious? Is it a trust deficit? How should the government respond? Should there be clearer communication?
The trust deficit comes from the view that neither the administration of the coaching institute nor the authorities have come clear and issued any public statement as to what exactly transpired on the unfortunate night, what happened, where are the CCTV footages, how the water entered, how students rescued themselves from there. And even for a minor instance, for example, let me just put it this way, that when it came to that black SUV passing through the Rao's building, administration immediately issued a CCTV footage that, okay, look at this car triggered floods into the basement. So what stops them from issuing the CCTV footages of the basement and the areas around that what exactly transpired? And this dichotomy, this lack of connection of dots is leading to suspicion in the minds of the students. That they are being convenient and filtered with what they're issuing and what they're hiding.
I think that's a very important point, because in fact the children, every child I've spoken to has repeatedly said, show us the CCTV footage, issue a statement, tell us what happened in hospital that time. And I think after what they've gone through, they have a right to ask that question. Now, before the 2 politicians take over, Padma, let me just bring you in, because I think once the Aam Aadmi Party and the BJP argue, a lot of us will have to step back. So Padma, do go ahead. Padma.
We are masters. We are masters at lip service. Many grand schemes launched, skilling programs, this, that, and the other, with scant follow-ups. Even as you were interviewing this boy yesterday, even as students were sitting there and protesting, the Ministry of Education, and this is really very, what they think is very skillful timing, announced a grand launch of a national apprenticeship and training program, Scheme 2.0 portal or something like that yesterday. So this is, pure and nothing but lip service. We have failed at every level, as Amod was pointing out, as the other young person was pointing out. Then the second thing I fail to understand is the sense of secrecy and reluctance to speak to the public. I mean, for heaven's sake, this is a public tragedy, and the police, the hospital, the MCD, in any civilized country of the world, for a tragedy of this magnitude, you would have spokespersons of all these departments coming out to give the public regular updates. And thirdly, I'm really sickened to the gut with the kind of politicking that's going on even at a moment like this. I have seen nothing and heard nothing except one party blaming the other, the Aam Aadmi blaming the BJP blaming the Aam Aadmi, the Congress playing politics on all sides, even over a tragedy like this, which our politicians, which all successive governments have created for over the past 75 years. Barkha, nothing has changed. The series of disasters, the neat paper leak, the electrocution of the drowning, this drowning, these are cumulative results of a series of failures at every level. We have failed. Our lawmakers have failed. Our law enforcers have failed. But even the private sector has failed. And this is not just Delhi. This is every town and city. Kota, Mumbai, Delhi, wherever. And each failure is marked by greed for power to control the education system, its institutions, its curricula, greed for money paid by these poor students and their families taking loans, greed for bribes paid by coaching centers and other law violators, and worst of all, complete indifference amongst our polity to the future of what every international forum is praising India for. Our bright students and our, the power of our youth and the power of their brains, the youthful India. This is what the entire world is praising us for. I'm ashamed. I really want to hang my head in shame. And the simple breakdown of how and why: to build a basement, you need permission. It's granted under certain rules pertaining to usage and under assurances from certain departments like waterworks. All these are government controlled. This is such a multi-layered process, and dare I say intentionally so that there's plenty of room to turn a blind eye here and blind eye there and make a buck. So violations both by builders in the private sector and small-time officials in the public sector. Then to use a basement in any which way, as Amoji was pointing out, permissions have to be applied for. Again, a chance to turn a blind eye. To run a coaching center, almost certainly, I'm sure it requires a cap on the number of students given the size of the premises, etc., etc. Again, plenty of room for violation, both by government officials and in this case, also by us. So now, we desperately need those jobs. We need that training. So we pay and take the risk. Why we need those jobs, we'll speak about that soon. But for now, this is my immediate reaction.
Yeah, Neelam Krishnamurthy, who fought for 26 years for fire safety. She actually said that her battle had failed when she saw what happened here. She said, what was the point? She lost her 2 children in that fire. And wo fire department ka NOC bilkul violate yahan pe. Mudit, I'll come back to you. Let's just get Vineeta and Anmol also. Anmol ji, aapse shuru karti hu. The Delhi High Court is not amused. This car, I want to show our audience, through the water, there was a black SUV. And we have that video somewhere and we can play it. Ab police us gaadi ko impound kar rahi hai, uske driver ko arrest kar rahi hai. That is ridiculous. Now you'll say, okay, there's the car. The police reports to the center should answer. But the High Court is not amused with the Aam Aadmi Party either. It has questioned your freebies today. It has questioned what you're spending the money on. That is, are you spending money on political packages to win the next election? Or are you spending money on basic things like drain? And before you say that hamare powers kaat liye gaye hain, all of that is true, but you don't need any special powers to have drains function. What special powers are needed to have drains function, sir? Anmol ji.
Barkha ji, the reality is that Delhi has a drainage system which was built way back in 1976, and it needs a complete overhaul. And we are working on it. We have divided in 2022. And let me tell you a fact. In 2009, the then LG, Mr. Tejinder Khanna, he asked the civic bodies to prepare a master plan for drainage system. The report was submitted in 9 years. And for the next 4 years, till the Aam Aadmi Party came in power in 2022, no action was taken again on that master plan. In 2022, we divided the city into 3 zones: Nazafgarh Basin, Barapula Basin, and Trans Yamuna Basin. And we engaged 2 consultants, which were then removed by the Lieutenant Governor. So, and the second point, MCD needs a standing committee to disburse any amount more than 5 crores. The matter is pending before the Honorable Supreme Court, and the orders were reserved in May 2023. We approached the Supreme Court that they must allow the MCD to function, to operate and work as a standing committee till the time it gets officially formed. Even yesterday, we approached the Honorable Supreme Court and we were informed that we might have that judgment on this coming Friday.
So what is the main obstacle? If you had to describe in one line, what is the main obstacle to the Aam Aadmi Party being able to fix some of these problems? What is it in one line?
The one obstacle is the dominance of non-elected over elected. The officials, whether from PWD, whether from MCD, whether from DJB, all the officials report to the Lieutenant Governor after the central government promulgated an ordinance 8 days after a 5-judge constitution bench unequivocally decreed that the services is part of Delhi government. So the irresponsibility and this behavior of the officials who not even listen to the elected ministers. The Honorable Minister, Mr. Saurabh Bhardwaj, called meetings since February 2024. On 13th February, he called a meeting. On 20th of May, on 4th of June, on 10th of June. And he was informed
I've seen those letters.
Yeah, he was informed that 85% of the drains have been desilted. And when that information was verified by the people, it was found that the information is incorrect. Even the officials must be held for contempt because they even didn't listen to the orders of the Honorable Delhi High Court, which stated that a third-party audit must be conducted to ensure whether desilting has been done or not.
Okay. I want Vineeta to respond. Vineeta, you're in Kerala. Can we take we'll take the comments in just a moment. Can we take them off? I just want Vineeta to come in, please. Vineeta, you're in Kerala. Wayanad is grappling with a horrible situation. There too, there is talk about warnings ignored. Here too, there is talk about warnings ignored. It actually proves that politicians across the board, across the spectrum, they continue to be earnest, over sincere, warnings, sometimes from the student community. For example, we have this question from Saraswati saying it was already flagged by the student of the illegal basement, which was dismissed. When the basement is illegal, why is it still running? And what is the administration doing? The damage is done. Bulldozers. The day I was at the protest site, bulldozers were there, and the kids said to me rightly, Abhi kya lane ka fayda? The children are dead. Why are you bringing the bulldozers now? This is a stunt. Vineeta. The Aam Aadmi Party says the problem is the dominance of the non-elected over the elected. What do you say?
No, I think, Barkha, I agree with you. This is a issue that is pan-India, across states. If you want to rise above politics, in this particular situation is a multi-stakeholder game here. And the responsibility, you first pin it down to the Rao's IAS study circle for having got this permissions, beyond what they were mandated, putting those, extra cubicles in the basement. I think that is the first violation of, every the degree. And I think the culpable homicide, as it's called, I think the entire blame, most of it goes to the Rao's IAS study circle, which is a very prestigious and sought after coaching center in India, so to speak. And the second is, of course, the councillor, the MLA, the state government, and the entire gamut of developmental agents that are involved. You see, they talked about Wayanad. Wayanad also, there was blatant violation of the Gadkari Committee report. There was haphazard construction, rampant construction, urban development gone haywire. So it's a reflection of urban development going haywire at every point of time. If you see even Mumbai floods, repeated Mumbai floods, Chennai floods, it's all about urban development. And urban development does not, begin and end with center. The center gives guidelines. The states have to implement. The states have to enforce. Enforcement begins and ends with the state and with the developmental authorities that report on.
But the state says we have been enfeebled. Our powers have been taken away. They have released videos where Saurabh Bhardwaj he says pleading with the bureaucrats. Ki chaliye, let's go to the site, and the bureaucrats don't listen to him. This is the Aam Aadmi Party's argument. I'm actually not convinced to be completely honest, by any party's argument here. May I just say that? But I'm just giving you their argument. If you have a quick response, and then I want to take some questions from my audience.
Yeah, so Aam Aadmi Party always has this excuse of this, tripartite kind of rule over Delhi with the division between state and UT. But how you navigate this? How do you manipulate? And how you kind of administer despite all of these complications that Delhi has. Delhi has had this problem perennially since time immemorial. There's been a state UT problem, and how you navigate in the MCD definitely has the powers to approve or not to approve a particular building site, a building approval. They have the authority for that. They haven't been curbed of that responsibility. They haven't been told not to give approvals. That's the basic fundamental duty of the MCD official. How did the councillor approve that particular building in that particular plot when the drains are all going towards that particular spot and violating all kinds of codes?
But Vineeta, whether it's in Kerala, where can we go back just to that warning? Whether it's in Kerala where early warnings were ignored, or whether it is this young boy Kishore Kushwaha, my heart breaks at, you'll just see this coming. He's saying on the 22nd of July, sir, please take action. It's an issue of student safety. How is this not a crime? This is an absolute crime. That is why the students say this is murder. Now, the cruel irony is brought home by Prasad, Mr. Amod Kanth. Barkha, the tragedy is the students who are risking their lives in future for the very government that has failed them today. Very discomforting that they want to be part of the same system. And that is the irony. They want to serve India. They want to be civil servants. And this young boy, Abhishek, when he was crying, he told me something. He said Nevin died because he was saving lives. And he stayed back. He was the last person to leave the basement. And he said he may not have cleared the IAS yet, but he's already a public servant in the real sense of the word. That I think we have to acknowledge. Think of this young man in his 20s sitting there saving lives. Amod ji, you have, I mean, isme, when Vineeta says prime responsibility is the coaching center, do you agree? Because again, I will say, the students say everybody knows, and Padma also said this, Mudit also said this, everybody knows what the violations are. सबको मालूम है कि wires exposed हैं, fire exit नहीं है PG accommodation में, सबको मालूम है कि basement में backflow होता है दिल्ली में monsoons में, हमारे घरों में होता है, सबको सब कुछ मालूम है और कोई नहीं कुछ करता. पुलिस को भी मालूम है, एमएलए को भी मालूम है, काउंसलर को भी मालूम है, एमसीडी को भी मालूम है, सेंटर को भी मालूम है, पुलिस को भी मालूम है, पत्रकारों को भी मालूम है, सबको मालूम है, सबको मालूम है. It's like we are a broken system.
I think, Barkha, you have to divide this entire issue in 2-3 parts. Number one, it's heartbreaking, completely heartbreaking to hear that young boy. And 2 lakh students, I believe, they happen to be in Delhi for this kind of coaching. I have hundreds of opportunities to go and address and go and talk to them. Recently also, I was conducting interviews for these UPSC aspirants. Now, the issue is that the conditions are miserable. There's no doubt about it. And Rao Study Circle or any study circle, their objective is decidedly entirely commercial. And they're doing it in everything, keeping in view their commercial interest. And wherever they have a space, they use it. And basements are being used illegally, as I mentioned right in the beginning. So basically, but then still it is not appropriate to put the entire blame at the doorsteps of Rao Study Circle or others. You know, I have worked in the system. Perhaps amongst all these people present here, I think probably I have worked in the system longest and almost every part of it. Now, let me clarify that somehow, you know, like Delhi Jal Board. One time I have worked partly with Delhi Jal Board also. And then I was looking after vigilance of Delhi Jal Board. And I had the opportunity to go into the water and sewage supply system. As you know, they were together. The water and sewage in Delhi has been all with Delhi Jal Board for decades and decades. I think hundreds of crores have been spent on this entire system of sewage system, cleaning it, desilting it or correcting it, but nothing has happened. Here, it is not an issue what Aam Aadmi Party is trying to say, that if they had the authority, and let's say the entire authority was taken away from the bureaucrats to, let's say, the government and the ministers and the MLAs, or perhaps the councillors, will system improve? See, all these have been tested in Delhi, 50 years now. I have been looking after this system. So that is one part of it. And the concerned authorities, including police, for example, many a times the police has to give clearance. Many a times the police comes in picture, not always. But wherever the police comes in picture, MCD comes in picture, Delhi Jal Board comes in picture, sewage authorities come in picture. No, there we find that somehow this city, I mean the governance of the city and the planning in the city has always been at a very peculiar situation. The kind of money which has gone into Delhi's planning and implementation of these projects is nobody's business, but somehow it never happens. Desilting process, and this kind of situation being created on account of waterlogging, on account of drainage being clogged. This is all part of it. So it's very difficult to pinpoint one particular department, one particular agency, but decidedly, ultimately,
do you believe the students should be allowed to protest peacefully? Because I feel that's the least we owe them. But मैं आपके लिए clip play करना चाहती हूँ. Today, the students are saying, some of them are on hunger strike, and they are saying we are being forcibly cleared by the police. The pictures right now on the screen are from earlier, where too they allege that police used excessive force. But even today, they say some of us have been detained. Take a look at just this short clip of what the students are saying.
किसी ने हमारे जो रिप्रेजेंटेटिव किसी ने बोला है कि प्रोटेस्ट इन आप खुद से बोल रहे हैं कि प्रोटेस्ट हमारा डेलीगेशन मिलने गया और आपने पीछे से आके हटा दिया, आने नहीं दे रहे हैं. चलिए हम लोग बैठ सकते हैं ना, हम लोग को आगे बैठने नहीं दिया जा रहा है. आगे चलिए. और एसपी सर ने भी बोल दिया कि आ जाओ चल लेंगे बस में आ जाओ.
So they were taken away in a bus where they were protesting, Amodji. That site has been cleared. They have now gone to another bazaar and sat in the bazaar. They were right opposite Rao's. Why should they be cleared from there? Why do they not have the right to peaceful protest?
Tell you from civil society's angle, from police angle, whatever, that the anguish being expressed by these youngsters is entirely in place. They have no other way to go about it. The only point I can say, I mean, if you look at the police point of view, I think the commissioner of police should really hold a proper press conference and then define the entire situation right in the beginning. These small doubts about missing persons, who died, how many left. I mean, I think it's silly. I think the police should explain all these things very clearly. I don't think really that the police is much to blame except these parts. And now
the poor communication and looking like the unfriendly face of the state when the rest of the state is not coming forward. As Gitanjali says, the police is the public servant. Why is it often the case that they should be unapproachable? One should feel safe around the police. Padma, you wanted to come in. Go ahead.
Objection to make.
I can't. Start again, Padma. I couldn't hear you.
Yeah. I completely agree with Amodji. I just had a small interjection to make to the BJP spokeslady. I would like to point out that the Ministry of Planning and Urban Development is under the central government. We have spent obscene quantities of money for the so-called beautification and redevelopment of areas that don't need it, such as Rajpath, such as anywhere basically in Tony NDMC areas where the politicians live. Everything around the areas where the politicians themselves live is kept absolutely spick and span. There's no flooding, there's nothing. Mysteriously, everything functions there. Areas like this, Mukherjee Nagar, Rajendra Nagar, middle class areas, where what is happening about them? Number one, what have you done to address certain basic issues like British era drains? Now, these British era drains, they have proven inadequate in every metropolis, not just Delhi. What has the BJP, what have the central governments, the central ministries of urban development and planning done? Forget, it's not just the BJP, we've had the Congress for so many years. What have you done to address this problem, which has been recurring over and over again as urbanization grows, as silk levels grow, as there's more and more concretization of metropolises? This problem has grown exponentially as there's a growth in population and usage, etc., etc. So what has the central ministry done? I'm really curious to know. Very little. Number two, to the Aam Aadmi Party spokesman who spoke about the sequence of events pertaining specifically to desilting and pointed out what his party's supposed difficulties are in dealing with this problem. I would like to ask, as a citizen of Delhi, sir, what are the other improvements that your party has brought about independently to make life easier for middle class citizens of this city outside the Tony NDMC areas? These are the two things that I'd really like to know from these. Before
Vineeta and Anmol answer, one of the protesters, Padma, at the site, she said to me, she said, किसी नेता का बच्चा बॉर्डर नहीं जाता और किसी नेता के बच्चा बेसमेंट में नहीं फंसता. Because वो जहां रहते हैं, the areas, the Tony areas as you call them, the areas where they live, if there's waterlogging, there'll be NDMC tankers to drain it out within minutes, right? So there is class division here. There is an inequality, Mudit ji. There is at the heart of it a structural collapse and a structural inequality, a power asymmetry. These are powerless children who are seeking today justice for their friends. And the fact that they're being pushed out of their protest site, it really makes my blood boil. Mudit, Gupta.
Ji. Irrespective of the party lines and without getting into the politics, I have a few basic questions since we are, saying that, CM is not operating or the indirectly elected representative is there in Delhi. My simple question is, MCD since a long time had a list of, and it's on the official website, 39 illegally operating libraries and coaching institutes with them on which they had taken no action. What stopped them? Number one. Number two, Delhi Tenancy Act and the Delhi Rent Control Act, they are not being implemented in soul and spirit. Every year, hundreds and thousands of aspirants in Mukherjee Nagar and Rajendra Nagar fall prey to the brokers and the landowners. वहां पे क्या होता है कि पूरे साल रेंट चल रहा है, जैसे एग्जाम आने वाला होता है, ब्रोकर और लैंड ओनर जो हैं मिलके वो कहते हैं कि आपका रेंट अब बढ़ेगा वरना आप खाली करिए. अभी एग्जाम में 1 महीना रह गया एंड यू आर ब्लैकमेलिंग द स्टूडेंट लाइक दिस कि आप एग्जाम से 1 महीना पहले बोल रहे हैं कि आपका रेंट बढ़ेगा. बच्चा कहां जाएगा एग्जाम से 1 महीना पहले? हु इज लुकिंग आफ्टर दैट? Also, I would not name, but from the honorable spokespersons of both the parties, I can name the MPs and the MLAs from both the parties that live in within 500 meters of the Old Rajendra Nagar, and they must be knowing really well that whenever there is a class at 8 a.m. in the morning, there is a line in these basements starting 6:30 in the morning, whether it is summer, winter, or rains. Students need at least 45 minutes to get into those basements and another 45 minutes to get out of those basements. Now, my question is, in those very hazardous basements, you are teaching disaster management. What if there is a short circuit? What if there is some earthquake? What if there is a stampede? What if there is some emergency? How would they come out? Even though the fire department has issued NOCs clearly mention that the basements can only be used for parking and storage areas. You cannot store students there. Students are not commodities. So all these issues don't require a standing committee of the MCD, or they don't require some budget to be allocated. They just require plain enforcement.
I agree, and I'm glad you made the point about the fact. Anmol ji, aapse shuru karti hu, and then Vineeta. Delhi, the parliament, the national politics is dominated by the BJP. The state politics is dominated by the Aam Aadmi Party. Therefore, the questions can be for the councillors, they can be for the MCD commissioner, they can be for the AAP, they can be for the BJP, because Delhi has that kind of politics, right? And I think, as Mudit asked, कि वहां का MLA आपकी पार्टी का है, right? The MLA is of your party. People are complaining. Now, whether people are complaining rightfully or wrongfully, the point is, just like we blame the police for unclear communication, do you believe the Aam Aadmi Party is out there empathizing in the way that you need to?
Barkha ji, Mudit rightly said that MLA Aam Aadmi Party ka hai, councillor Aam Aadmi Party ka hai. लेकिन अधिकारी तो नहीं सुनते ना. समस्या तो ये है. Have you ever heard in the Indian political history that the officials are not listening to elected representatives? The people have given mandate to us, and if we don't wield that authority, if officials straight away, refuse to obey the directions, you might have heard Naresh Kumar saying, a reporter जब उनसे पूछा गया कि भाई 3 बच्चों की जान गई है, इतना दुखद ये समय है, उन्होंने कहा यार पंगा मत ले, जाके मंत्रियों से पूछ. This kind of language he used. जरा सी भी इनमें शर्म बाकी नहीं है. आज this is the time that we must all collectively work, and that is the reason, understanding the gravity of the situation, the Delhi minister Ms. Atishi ji today, along with the mayor Ms. Shelley Oberoi, introduced Coaching Regulation Act, which has provisions for fees regulation, for infrastructure and everything. And as ma'am said, that what have we done? Ma'am, we have allocated 8,243 crore of budget for MCD this year, which is 33% more than the last year, for sanitation, for infrastructure, for education and healthcare. And we are working 24/7 to improve the lives of people. We have done it. We have fulfilled our...
Can I ask you something?
Yeah.
Can I ask you something? I'm so sorry. Who do you hold accountable for what's happened? The coach. Do you and Vineeta agree on one thing, that you primarily hold Rao's Academy Circle responsible? I'm not saying they're not, but do you primarily, who do you hold? Anmol, who do you hold responsible?
The officials who neglected their duties, the coaching institute who charge exorbitant amount but do not provide safety to the students. Think about those parents who spend their hard-earned money for the students so that they get good education, but the institutes do not even...
So you said the officials and the coaching center, the officials who don't listen, and the coaching centers and the PG landlords. And anyone else?
We have suspended the AE and JE of that area, and anyone, whether it is from MCD, whether it is from Delhi government, whether it is a senior official, no one will be spared. Strictest possible action will be taken against them. ये बच्चे केवल उन माता पिता के नहीं थे, ये हमारे भाई बहन थे, और हमें इनकी उतनी ही चिंता है जितनी उनके परिवार को होगी शायद. और जो भी संभव मदद हो पाएगी वो सरकार की तरफ से बिल्कुल की जाएगी. And collectively we must also ensure that no such incident happen in the future.
I'm just struck by the irony that you are blaming the officials in a situation where all of these children on the street are aspiring to be those very officials. I don't know what messaging at this point we are making about the system. Padma, briefly, and then Vineeta, I'm coming to you right after that. Padma, go ahead.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, Barkha. You know why this enormous popularity of IAS jobs? Why? Because why are they such coveted jobs? Or even the NEET exam to become a government doctor. The catch and the tragedy, even though, is that if 1 lakh apply, the actual number selected after reservations, etc., is about 1%. Job security, yes, I agree. Pension, etc., I agree. But the real reason is the power given to bureaucrats and the opportunity that they get to mingle with the powerful polity, with politicians. These are not illogical reasons for wanting to apply, but basically because also the laws pertaining, there aren't enough jobs in the private sector. We have to create jobs, and the laws are lax about the private sector granting similar job security. Now, but has the availability of government jobs changed over 75 years, Barkha? Given the enormous explosion in population, have the number of available jobs gone up? No. Have conditions and creations of jobs in other private sectors or in other sectors changed? No. Because successive governments are still reluctant to loosen their reins on many sectors. Have lawmakers ensured that the labor class, the working classes, are protected adequately in private sector jobs by updating old British laws, say pertaining to pension or minimum wages? Not adequately. So what do you have to do? And then also at the same time, what is wrong with the current bureaucracy is its unlimited powers, its quasi immunity against any action, its sense of entitlement that must be cut to size. And also, they've been talking since 2002 about cutting unnecessary expenditure. We spend money on so many things. The minute you say spend more money on education or health, the argument is, but we have to have spend a lot on the defense budget because then you're not worried about national security. That's not the issue. There are 740 central sector schemes and 50 centrally sponsored schemes, which accounted in 2022 for 16.2 trillion. That's 41% of the financial year 23 budget. So the government has been saying since then they want to cut down all these, redundant schemes, merge them. What is happening? Where is that money? Why isn't it being put into the future of our children?
And what's very important is to say it isn't just about those studying for the IAS. Today, I got messages from medical students who said that there are similar basements operating for those who are preparing for the medical entrance exam. Tarun Kaushik says it isn't just the IAS. Most coaching centers across India are running like this. G coachings, that's IIT G coachings in Munirka, Jaisarai area have basement classrooms with more than 500 students in a single entry or exit, which is a fire hazard. Vineeta, go ahead, and then Amod, you can take the last word. Vineeta ji.
Yeah, so with all due regard to you, ma'am, Padmaji, but the urban development is a state-driven subject. You can't deny that. It's in the Constitution of India, but we are not taking away the blame from any of the center or the state. The center can give guidelines. The center can take it as much as it can take it to the states. The states have to then implement it. The enforcement agencies like the development authorities have to enforce and make master plans and enforce them. So that's the reality of the country as it is today between center and state. And as far as the coaching centers guidelines are concerned, the Ministry of Higher Education had released the guidelines for coaching centers in 2024 January. Already places like, states like Bihar, Goa, Rajasthan, Karnataka have already made their coaching center, they've made the coaching guidelines for their states, but Delhi hasn't done that. And that particular guideline specifies all the infrastructure requirements that are required for coaching centers, how much square meter you need to dedicate for each student in a coaching center has been specified, but states have not done it. Many states have not implemented, including the state of Delhi. So much so for the center state blaming of the blame game that's going on here. And as far as the blame of this particular incident, I said it's a multi-stakeholder, blame that has to be, gone to the MCD, the Arouse IAS Study Circle, the MCD, the councillor, the MLA, and of course the state government. If they have the powers to sack the JE and the EE, then where didn't they say that they don't have any powers? They're helpless. They're important. They're an important state government. But they have sacked the JE and EE, so they have so much powers to do that. So it cannot.
Okay, I have to close with Mr. Amod Kanth, but Padma, briefly, please. Amod Kanth gets the last word. Yeah, Padma first.
Very briefly, Vineeta, the Delhi police reports to the central government, for instance. Coming back to the question of why hasn't the police been giving us regular updates, for instance, why isn't it doing that? The second thing is that you mentioned is all the so-called reforms that your party has undertaken in states like, you mentioned Goa amongst other things. May I just remind you that Goa, there's been severe flooding in Goa also, in the city of Panjim, under the so-called smart city scheme. There has been severe inconvenience caused to young people and to old people alike across that state and many other states ruled by you directly. So,
Yeah.
even setting aside Delhi, it's not as if this problem is restricted
Goa
to
has
Delhi
one of the
alone.
best enforced master plans, ma'am, and they would
Ma'am, I spent part of the
situation
year
than
living
Mumbai
there.
or Delhi. Mumbai or
Ma'am,
Delhi compared for Mumbai or
I
Delhi.
spent part of the year
Okay.
living there, and the
Okay.
entire summer has been washed out, and the city of Panjim is
Okay.
flooded. Please do read
Okay.
see
From
what's going on
from
there.
from 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 Wayanad to Delhi, the fact is that warnings are institutionally ignored. It is
Yes.
multi-stakeholder, yes, but nobody takes it seriously. As the young boy said to me, the Abhishek, Nevin's friend, he said, in this country, in our country, we only react after somebody's dead. You bring in the bulldozers after 3 kids have died. You're talking about the warnings in Wayanad after more than 100
Yes.
have died in that landslide. We will talk in a reactive way. We don't want to fix the system. We just want to talk about the broken system after a tragedy or a loss happens. Amod, Kanth, what would you be advising the police commissioner? Sorry, Mudit, you have a sentence, very brief sentence. Mudit, I saw your hand go up, and then we have to close with Amod.
Just a quick thing, that apart from all this, one brewing hazard that can be there is the drinking water, because the sewage water in ORN is getting mixed with the drinking water. And secondly is the unauthorized food centers that are extremely hazardous for the health of the students. So FSSAI should also come into the picture and start checking the food quality there.
I am saying, Amod ji, kahan check kya hoga? Aap ORN is Old Rajendra Nagar. Then there is Mukherjee Nagar. Then there is Patel Nagar. Then there is Gautam Budh Nagar. Then there is where the medical exam kids are, or there where the IITG kids are. Ye har jagah to same hai. It is a structural issue. Anyway, what would be your advice? In conclusion, your advice to the police commissioner, do a press conference. Please do a press conference. Why are you moving children out of the protest site? What is happening inside the hospital? Nobody is talking to the children except in small batches of delegations. But there is a public at large.
To sum it up, 3 points. I said already that police commissioner should hold a press conference. Make it everything very clear, loud and clear, which he can do because all the information he has with him, number one. Secondly, it's a tragedy. It's a very serious tragedy, a very serious crime. So as a crime,
Yes.
investigation should bring out things very clearly as to who are the stakeholders, what role they had to play. The government officials, if they're responsible, I think they should be put on the block. But then let me inform you, friend, that the MLA and the councillors, I mean, specifically, they have to go down on the streets, on the places. There are lakhs of students who are trapped in these kind of situations. Why can't the people's representatives and the government officials, concerned stakeholders, go there, conduct an audit, conduct a survey, and then bring out all the points and deficiencies which are there? They must do it. It's a wake-up call. I mean, it's a very serious affair. It's a very, very important issue. It's a wake-up call.
Anmol ji wants to say something to you before you close.
Last
Yeah,
point.
okay.
There are guidelines. There are laws and there are guidelines. There are advisories on these subjects. We have gone through it. Let them be implemented. And then, of course,
Anmol ji,
dispute between...
Anmol ji wants to, between the two parties. Before you comment on that, let Anmol just get a word in. Anmol?
Amodji, all our MLAs and councillors went to the ground and they shared the pictures with the Honorable Minister, Mr. Saurabh Bhardwaj, which were showed to the officials in the meeting held on 28th of June. In fact, on 24th of June as well. But they were blank. They had no response. They straight away refused.
Mr. Amod. Amod.
No, I said it that it has been their responsibility. They cannot say that only bureaucrats were responsible, others are responsible. It's a collective responsibility. That's all I am saying. Now, not reactive. I am talking about the previous one. And I'm also talking about some kind of very close scrutiny and auditing should be done in the larger trends of lakhs of children who are trapped in these situations. Okay.
Hear me? Can you hear me, Amodji? Can you hear
Yes,
me,
yes,
Amodji?
I can.
I'm sorry. I was saying your last word on this battle between the BJP and the Aam Aadmi Party.
I'm only saying that perhaps this incident, this crime, this horrendous tragedy is not the point on which there should be a battle between bureaucrats and the representatives, people's representatives. Both should be equally accountable. They had no business not to go into these places and point out deficiencies in advance. They have failed. I think they have together failed. Stakeholders being people's representative, what do they have to say? I'm not commenting on the big fight going on between, let's say, representatives and the bureaucrats. But then I don't think it's fair to say that they were not responsible. They were all equally responsible.
I think that's well said. No one can deny responsibility or accountability. And this is Priyanka Juneja, a young woman on our audience stream, says, we wanted to change the system. We ourselves have become victims of this. And another student at the site, protest site, said to me, Aap ye sochiye that there was a girl, Shreya. She's the daughter of a dairy farmer. She took a loan. The parents took a loan to pay for the coaching fees. And kahan usne socha tha ki wo afsar banegi, kahan uska future? Gutter ke pani mein doob ke mar gaya, because that is literally actually what happened. That is what happened. And we cannot turn our heads away, painful as it is for us to process what has happened. We leave it there. To Mudit ji, Padma ji, Vineeta ji, Amod ji, and to Anmol ji. Thank you. And to our audience, thank you. The full conversation with Abhishek Verma, the friend of Nevin Delvin. He speaks for 60 minutes. I urge all of you to watch it and to hear it, because it will give you the mind, a peek into the mind of a 21-year-old who's devastated, who can't sleep at night, but who's still thinking about not just his own future, but the future of India. Thank you for watching. Take care.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.